And uh, folks, let's call this meeting to order, the Select Natural Resources Funding Committee on this 27th of December. Uh, Again, my apologies for let's call this. I'm sorry, I kind of missed whoever that was. But anyway, would you please take roll, Ian, this morning, or
Heather,
Heather?
are you there with the official thing? I could take a roll as well, but Heather normally does that and puts it in our official record if she's here.
Yeah, if Heather is on
Yes,
board,
Mr. Chairman.
go ahead, Heather.
Mr. Chairman, this is a roll call for Select Natural Resource Funding Committee, December 27th. Senator Cooper,
Here.
Senator
Can you hear
Guru.
me okay?
Yes.
Okay.
Senator Guru,
Here.
Representative Byron,
Excused.
Representative Provenza,
Here.
Co-Chairman Crago,
Excused.
Chairman Landon,
Here.
and you have a quorum.
Okay, thank you very much, Heather. We are here this morning to consider the Natural Resource Funding Bill. I really want to commend Ian and the director and all the staff, the commission, for their work on this bill. And this is the one that we consider in the fourth quarter each of the years, and decide whether or not to forward this bill on to the legislative session. And let me just say that the co-chairman says he regrets he's probably in the air right now, flying somewhere. So again, thanks to everybody for taking a moment during a busy holiday time to consider this bill and to attend the meeting. So, Director, how about
Mr. Chairman?
I'm going to waive. Go ahead, Senator Cooper.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, I apologize for not having my little picture up on the screen this morning, but I am traveling, and I would like to say that I did make the board's final meeting a couple weeks ago, and I looked at all these projects, and there's some really great projects here. So if you lose me, I'd like to insert a proxy as a yes vote on this bill when we move forward.
Senator Cooper, thank you for that, and I'll sure accept the proxy vote. Hopefully we won't lose you, but if we do, we appreciate you weighing in on that. So, Ian, normally I'd have you walk us through the bill. I don't think that part is necessary this morning. You're there if we have any questions for you. I would like to move right on to Director Budd. Director, how about if you walk us through the bill this morning?
Be happy to do that, Mr. Chairman. Bob Budd, Director of Wyoming Wildlife Natural Resource Trust. Before I do, I just want to welcome Ian back to the fold. When we started 20 years ago, Ian was a young attorney in the LSO, and he was assigned the duty of the Wildlife Trust. And we had a great relationship. We were sorry to lose him, but good things come back in time. And hats off to him because he found a couple things. Number one, he flagged that we had to have this meeting. But number two, as we go through the bill, you'll see a change. It only took us 20 years to figure this out in the way that the bill is presented when we have projects that are ongoing. And I think when he called and said, what if we did this? I was like, okay, you're way smarter than me. Yes, absolutely. But great to have you back, Ian.
Thanks, Bob. Appreciate it.
Yeah, you bet.
So, Director, thanks for alluding to that. And that is one area that we may want to touch on this morning, just to make sure as we go forward, the committee knows the best way to present, how the bill is written, et cetera. So
yeah,
take it away, Director.
you bet. So I'm just going to jump right down to page 2. We don't need to go through the definitions there. The first project is Thunder Basin Habitat. It's the third iteration of this project. It's an all-in-one project. It has fencing, water development, vegetation management, invasive species, that invasives being invasive conifers and cheatgrass, invasive annuals. It's a great project, primarily aimed at mule deer, elk, antelope, but also things like burrowing owls, sage grouse and other species that use those grasslands. It's a pretty well leveraged project. It's $1.6 million. And you'll see that's the total we have in it. And that's the change that Ian flagged under little v there on page 3. The total grant for the project, including all grants previous, that is the 1.6 million. But it also flags that the grant in this one is only 372,000. And in the past, we had that reversed. It did the grant and then it did the total authorization. And it was always confusing to the legislature. So I think this really clarifies that, makes it clear. Everything altogether adds up to the 1.6 out of 5 and change, almost 6 million. And then this time around, the only amount is 372, which exceeds the 200 limit for a large project as they move forward. Questions on that one, Mr. Chairman?
So Director, the only question I had is up in that country, did the fires affect any of the work that had been done up there?
Mr. Chairman, not this project. This is south and east of where those fires were.
Okay. All right. Sounds good. Yeah, please continue.
On page 4D, Baggs Valley Headwaters, again, an ongoing project. This is the 3rd phase of this one. Some of you may have actually seen this over time when we did phase 1 or 2. It's a treatment of primarily oak brush. And when you see when we do this, I'll bring the photos and show it to you. But in the interest of time, I didn't think we needed a PowerPoint today. It's about 5,300 acres, and it's removal of conifers. It's, again, treatment for cheatgrass, and then just basically a mastication project or a mulching project on other species, which increases leader growth. This is particularly important given the winter we had 2 years ago for deer. And when we did the site visits this year, you could see the deer. I mean, they were all over it, and nice fat roly-poly little does and fawns, which was great to see. But they're all over this. It's a great project, really well leveraged. Again, it's $5 million. We've got 750 in it. It's a total. So that's where we're at with that one. The next one, E, on page 6, is the Kemmer Highway 189 migration. You'll all recall the Dry Piney project that we did a couple of years ago. This is almost identical to that project. A series of underpasses, 6 to 8, depending on what the bids come in. And this one will actually have an overpass as well. Big antelope migration through there. Antelope don't like underpasses. We're starting to maybe find some ways to get them to use them, but they really don't like them. So there will be one big overpass that will accommodate antelope. There are some elk that work their way through there and occasional moose, but it's primarily for deer. It's an area that is as lethal as the area Dry Piney was. You're getting a kill a day and the associated property damage and human risk. This one will pretty well use up the $10 million the legislature appropriated for crossings and migration. We will be down to 0 in that account. Luckily, if you look at it from that perspective, we did not receive the federal grant for the Du Bois project. We were not one of the fortunate ones. We did get 2 others, so we probably, and being a red state, we were probably less favored. But anyway, we didn't get that. So we aren't in a crisis mode where we have to come up with another 4 or 5 million at this point. But down the road, we may want to come back and supplement that crossing money. It's 6.2 million. It's a huge project, though, 31 million. That's the state required match for the federal grant, or a big chunk of it. There's also money in this from the Wildlife Fund, from Game and Fish, from Muley Fanatics and other NGOs. But it's pretty straightforward. It's just another crossing project. It'll go from just south of Kemmer clear to the interstate. Next is F, starting on page 7 and going into page 8. Another really impressive project. The board did this one as in total. All of us sat down with the Aaron Foster, who's the weed and pest supervisor in Fremont County. It's 48,000 acres, and it goes from basically, you're all familiar with the country, Bull Lake to the Rim of Red Canyon. So it's that entire lander front, including the reservation. You'll all recall we did the big removal on feral horses up there. That has come back in unbelievably condition. That's really improved the habitat for bighorn sheep in particular, but also deer, antelope, elk, and other species. This will just continue that work. There's a lot of money in this from the BIA. We've got full partnership with the tribes and with BLM, Forest Service. So it'll run that full gamut. We'll probably see this one again down the road, because this will get what they can get done in a year to year and a half. But it's again, well leveraged, $3 million, $3.5 million. We have 883,720 in it.
So, Director, up in that country, what's the sage grouse population like along that front range there?
It's good, Mr. Chairman. You've got, as you go north, of course, those leks aren't quite as strong, but as you get down into Table Mountain, just outside of Lander, that's a prime wintering area for sage grouse. You have birds. The unique thing there, and as you know, I know this country pretty well. I ran that ranch for 12 years. Those birds actually are hatched down around Hudson, and they walk clear to the top of South Pass. Those little chicks, and we would see them every year coming through. I mean, they're not as big as your fist, and they're following mama till they can fly, and they'll go clear up on South Pass over onto the other side of the divide, and then come back in the fall and winter back down on that face. So it's a pretty critical area for sage grouse.
I'll be darned. Yeah, I appreciate that. Thanks, Director.
You bet. Next is Seminole Shirley Habitat 2. Again, these are projects from Game and Fish. Willow Bish is the person in the field. She does tremendous work, great relationship with private landowners. This is about 100,000 acres in central Wyoming. It'll connect to another project, which is not a large project yet, coming north out of Carbon County. And so they are working together with Carbon County Weed and Pest, as well as the conservation districts there. It's just habitat restoration, again, very similar to the one in Thunder Basin, fence modification, riparian restoration, invasive species, water development, and all of that. Aimed primarily again at mule deer, which is a key concern for this state. Antelope after the winter of 22 as well, but it maintains all of that. It's in a sage grouse core area. Good work, a continuation of really good work that's been done there. Again, very well leveraged. I don't think there's any issues there. I do want to check this one in, because I see it's got the same, I think it's got the same amount of money as Thunder Basin, and that may be a cut and paste error. I need to check that.
Mr. Chairman,
Go ahead, Representative. Yeah.
my understanding is that we passed the large project threshold number to $400,000. Am I wrong in that we might not, if the appropriation on our end is $372,000, we may not need that in the large project bill?
Mr. Chairman, Representative Provenza, we tried, if you'll recall, to make it 400 and 400, but that did not succeed. So it's 400 and 200. 400 the first time, 200 the second. And I still don't know why that wouldn't fly, but it just landed dead on arrival. And so they just doubled everything. It was 200 and 100. I thought that 2 and 1 when it first came up, and it just, for some reason, there was a desire to do that. So it is over the 200.
Okay, thank you.
So, Mr. Chairman, to that end, I do want to check that number. I don't know. I will in a minute. If it's incorrect, we'll need to amend the bill to reflect the correct amount on.
Yeah, we can sure accomplish that first thing.
So let me move to H. This lovely acronym, It stands for Northeast Wyoming Invasive Grasses Working Group. And it's when we did the, when Governor Gordon did the invasives species task force in 2020, I think it was, maybe it was 19. One of the key things that we called out, I served on that, and one of the key things we called out was that these county weed and pest districts needed to start working across boundary lines as collaboratives. And we've had now 2 really strong ones. They're both in this bill, Western Wyoming and this Northeast group. So this is Sheridan, Johnson, Campbell, and Crook County all working together. They're mapping things together. They identified where their priorities are. And they've gone in and come back. They originally asked for 6 million. When we met with them, what they can actually use right now is 4.5. So that's the amount that we've given them. This is on areas that were not affected by the fires. These were all mapped prior. There may be a little bit of overlap here, but the money we've asked for fire restoration is separate from this particular grant.
So, Director, this is probably a good time to ask a quick question. We make quite a significant change in our appropriations group going forward. We've got a lot of changes to deal with in the next 2 months. I'm just curious, what, if anything, you're hearing on the support front with the conversations that we've had around this invasive species issue in Wyoming. What can you tell us? What have you? I know the governor's very supportive of trying to get out in front and handle this, but what are you hearing?
Well, I did go meet with JAC. It was interesting, I guess, is the way I will frame it, in the sense that there were some pretty strong attacks on that $130 million request, which is in addition to the 11. 11 is for the invasives to finish the 20 million that was asked for last year. Not much debate or question there. The 130 got down in the weeds pretty quick and was fairly antagonistic. Interestingly enough, when it was all said and done, the new members of the committee on the House side caught me in the hall and said, let us know what we need to do. We'd like to help. So I remain optimistic we'll be able to at least address some of those key issues. But, you know, whether that means 130 or a different number, I don't know. I do know that there will be a callback when the new committee is seated. They've already told me that, which I welcome that. But I think there is some support. For one thing, the majority of the new members are in the districts that burned. So
Right.
it's their neighbors and friends that have been affected. And it, so, you know, we didn't go in with a full strategy that says, hey, this is how we're going to do it. We went in basically and said, this is what we need, we think, to start. We'll develop a process after we know there's money. To go out and build a process and then not receive funding doesn't make any sense. So that's where we kind of had a little bit of friction, I guess, but it was pleasant. It was just strange.
Well, thank you, Director Bud. I think that's some information that all of us can take forward into the session, knowing that conversation will continue. And obviously, I think this committee's very supportive of all that we talked about during the interim. So anyway, thank you for that, Director. Please continue. Yeah.
So the next is exactly the same as the Northeast. This is the Western Wyoming group. This is Teton, Lincoln, Sublette, Uinta, and Sweetwater counties. They all got together. Their need right now is for the 1.4 million. That will all go into Lincoln County. Lincoln County doesn't have the resources. Sublette and Teton are in really good shape for now. Sweetwater is a little behind as far as their mapping and that end of it. We have funded some work down there, but this is going to be directed at Lincoln County, and that that's the way we had hoped that this would happen. So those counties all working together. Like the other one county will administer the funds. Sheridan County will do it in the Northeast group, and this one will be handled by Teton County. Very capable, very good at what they do. And this is all cheatgrass directed. K is Upper Green Fence. This is the second iteration. They asked us for $750,000 a year ago. We asked them what they could actually do in a year. We funded $250 a year ago. This $250 puts it over the large project limit. So this would be phase 2. There'll probably be a third one of these a year from now that'll finish this project up. But this is all fence modification, primarily for antelope, but also for deer. M on page 16 is a Wapiti habitat restoration. This is a river system. It's on the North Fork of the Shoshone. There are a couple other tributaries that'll get some work done as they come in and the confluence with the North Fork. But it's basically to provide seasonal movement of those fish in there above Buffalo Bill Dam. It will maintain the irrigation efficiency. There are local irrigators who irrigate out of there without causing barriers for the fish. And then it'll stabilize those banks where we have some pretty severe erosion on the North Fork. N on page 18 is Natrona Core Cheatgrass. We had 2 applications in Natrona County. This one from Game and Fish, again, it's being led by Willow. Better thought out, better planning, better mapping. It was funded in full at the $884,000. That was pretty straightforward. The other one, the board deferred. We're going to go back to Natrona County, get them to get a little finer, a little sharper pencil on that. They were at the meeting in Douglas and understood that. They weren't surprised that it was deferred. But this one will do the core area, which is south of Casper. It's large leks, a lot of birds, focused on that habitat restoration out in there, but primarily invasive grasses. There may be a little bit of other work, but that's the primary purpose. Mr. Chairman, that's the bill. And Hillary's here with me. She's going to check on those other 2, the Thunder Basin and Seminole.
Well, Director Bud, thank you. And on that last project, let's try not to be too tough on Natrona County. They're good people up here. So
Well, there are some, yes, Mr. Chairman.
all right, committee, any questions for Director Bud this morning on the bill? Ian, did we cover everything? I wonder, do we want to try to hang on here for a second to see if that total on this bill and try to amend it this morning?
Mr. Chairman.
Director Bud.
So the Thunder Basin should be 620, not 372.
Okay, 6. Ian, do you have that location?
It's on
Mr. Chairman.
page 3.
Yes, I think that's on. Thunder Basin was.
I think it's about 8 or what page was that?
Page 3 or 4.
Wait, that, yeah. Let's locate that and committee, then I would.
What's
So that starts on page 2 and then continues, Mr. Chairman, on to page 3. And the appropriation is on page 5, or I'm sorry, on page 4 is where on line 2 is where I think we would actually need to make the change. Although you can, Mr. Chairman, it's fine if you want to tell me to just change that because there'll be several places where we'll actually make that adjustment. And if you want to take a vote, I think we need to move the bill first, and then when we start amending it, we can just make that change to that project to make the project grant for this year that larger amount.
And then you can take care of the conforming amendments, et cetera.
That's right. Yeah.
Thank you for that, Ian. And so
move the bill.
It's been moved, seconded by Representative Provenza. Any further discussion this morning, committee? I would entertain a motion to affect that change that Director Bud has recommended to us?
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Representative Provenza and seconded by, I think Senator Cooper weighed in on that second. So,
Okay.
all in favor? Any discussion on that?
Mr. Chairman, let me to clarify,
ahead.
what was the number again? I believe it was 650, or what did?
620, I thought I heard. Director Bud?
Mr. Chairman, it is 620, and we'll get you the total project budget. I'll double check that as well. But the appropriation is 620.
Okay, thanks for catching that, Director. And Ian, does that
Mr. Chairman, yes.
take care of? Okay. All in favor of that motion, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? Okay, we have that amendment has passed, Ian, and we would ask that you just do all the conforming things to get that ready to go for us. Anything further on the natural resource funding bill? Let's do a roll call, Heather, if you're still with us. Let's roll call this and take a vote.
Mr. Chairman, this is a roll call for 25 LSO 213 2025 large project funding. Senator Cooper,
Aye.
Senator Guru,
Aye.
Representative Byron excused, Representative Provenza,
Aye.
Co-Chairman Crago excused, Chairman Landon.
Aye.
4 aye, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you very much, Heather. And Ian, that will be a Senate bill to start, I think, is how we've normally operated, if I remember correctly. And we'll sure do our best to get it over to you, Representative Provenza.
I'll do my best as soon as it gets here.
Okay. Well, that sounds great, you guys. Anything else for the good of the cause, Ian?
Chairman, no, I believe that does our business. Thank you for everybody for being available. Like I said, I'm sorry I had to throw the wrench in the plan with the regular meeting date, but this worked out better.
No, it really did. And I just want to share my enthusiasm. Ian, you and I have worked together over these years, and it's good to be able to do so again.
Very good.
Great
Thank
to have you on board. And Senator Gru, take care. It'll be good to see you soon. And you too, Senator Cooper, Representative Provenza. Thanks for taking time, you guys. I think we're done today. Director Bud, thanks. We'll
Thank
see
you
you
all.
all
Happy
very
New
soon.
Year.
Okay, Happy New Year, you
Happy New
guys.
Year.
Okay.
Take care.